After being through it and going through it, no matter the age, there's going to be that mom guilt. But what I did and how I framed it for myself, I'm bettering their lives ultimately at the end of the day.
Welcome to Beyond the Casebooks podcast, where we're redefining the road to law school. I'm Micah, your host, and in each episode, we dive into the unique and inspiring journeys of law students, graduates, and professionals who have navigated the twists and turns of the legal world. Whether you're dreaming of law school, currently in the thick of it, or reflecting on the path you've already walked, this podcast is for you. So let's explore the stories behind the casebooks and discover what it truly takes to succeed in the world of law. Hi, I'm Micah, and this is Beyond the Casebooks podcast, where we talk to guests about their different and unconventional journeys through and to law school. And today we're going to talk with Tabitha. Hi, Tabitha. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Great. So you have a different type of journey to law school. Let's start first with a little bit of your background, like your education and your work experience, so we can get a lay of how then we'll get to how you got to law school.
Okay. So I'm definitely not a traditional law student. So I got my bachelor's in psychology from Azusa Pacific, and then I needed a break. I've always been the type of student that went all in and put all my efforts, and I was a little burnt out. So I then jumped into commercial insurance as an insurance agent, did that for a few years, and while still being employed with my current company, I went back to school. Got my master's in business management with the HR concentration. And so my employer approached me about an HR director position. I would essentially create the whole department. And so I did that for a few years and then landed in law school.
And let's talk about, because you are a working mother. Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about your family, because that plays a major part, because a lot of people start like right after college, before they've even started a family. Can we talk a little bit about that and how that looks for you?
Sure. So, in regards to law school, I started law school when my kids were 5 and 2, which if I knew more about what law school entailed, I probably would have held off a little bit. I thought, you know what? I got my master's. I did it quickly. I went through it. And so I jumped right in. It was really difficult because there's a lot of variables in the mix. You never know when they're going to get sick. They have different activities at school. And of course, there's the mom guilt involved in there because I also worked full time. So it was really just balancing the different plates. And it was a challenge, but we did it because I graduated.
Yeah, you did get through it, at least you did that. And I know when I met you, I was amazed because you had little ones, and a lot of people that have started maybe later in life, they had maybe teenagers. They're kind of at a place where the kids could be a little bit more independent, but you have little ones, and they are adorable. And so, but why made you kind of decide, okay, law school is a good time for me now? Why would you do that? Why would you put yourself through that?
Great question. One, I've always loved to learn, and I was at a point of life where I needed a challenge. Again, didn't know what law school entailed. I'm a first generation law student or law school graduate, so I didn't have anyone telling me about what cold calls were, what briefing was, really all of it, all the challenges law school has. And so I thought, okay, my kids are young. They won't remember me being gone as much as if I started when they were older. I wanted to be more actively present when they started sports and whatnot. And so I'm like, okay, let's just go knock this out. And I started.
No, that makes sense, actually. That's a good thought, that because they were younger, you felt like you were not going to miss some of those more involved things that they might be involved in. And your kids are involved in things now, right? And so do you feel that you chose a good age for that? Do you still was that good for them? For those who might be listening and be like, oh, should I wait for them to be a little bit older, or my kids are young now, this would be good? What was your pros and cons that you found for balancing that?
I think there's no real good time. After being through it and going through it, no matter the age, there's going to be that mom guilt. But what I did and how I framed it for myself, I'm bettering their lives ultimately at the end of the day. And so would I change the time I went now? No, because there would just be challenges, maybe a little bit different based on their age. But if you want to do it, just go into it knowing you're going to have that battle with yourself in
Yeah.
regards to some of the lack of time that you're going to have with them. But you also can kind of cater your schedule too based on their needs. So for me, that looked like studying super late at night and maybe waking up really early. I did thankfully have the support of my husband. So weekends, I just treated it like a job. So I had 6 to 8 hours both days.
Yeah. And so like what did your law school days look like? Then like let's take it through the weekdays. Like, how did that look? How did you balance that?
So first of all, I worked full time. So I worked from 7:30 in the morning to 4 o'clock. And I did the evening schedule with my law school. And so I did their hybrid program. So I did some in person and some online in regards to classes. And I think that is honestly ultimately how I got through law school is having that balance, because 3 hours for a class is a lot of time away right after work from my kids. But yet I still wanted that law school experience of being in person. So having one in-person class a week plus the 2 online, which is about an hour and a half, just really fit my schedule a lot better.
Yeah.
And honestly, unless it was finals or midterms, I didn't do a lot of studying during the week. I might have done reading for classes, but the bulk of my studying would have been on the weekend.
Okay. And what are some things that you maybe feel like you should have done differently that maybe would have helped either law school or balancing your family life during your law school time?
That's a great question.
Now that you can look back, 2020, hindsight's 2020 of what would you think that you might have changed a little bit different, or what worked best for you that might be helpful for someone else?
I think getting involved with the school in regards to meeting with professors earlier on, just because I had no idea what I was doing. And maybe it was a little bit of an ego thing where I wanted to figure it out. But I think just really seeking that mentorship would have been really helpful. Now, what I thought was really successful is having at the start of each week a plan. And yes, because of all the variables, that plan might change, but having that plan and just being able to alter it and shift it based on the needs is really, I think, what got me through everything.
No, that makes sense. And what type of tips in regards to your plan? Like you said, having the classes at night, what particular things would be helpful for other people in just law school in general, regardless of having a family or anything that, but besides talking to the professors earlier, like maybe some programs that they should be involved in, or routines maybe they should start developing even before they start law school so they can start thinking that way?
I would say, one, know what you're getting into. I think doing a deep dive, talking to some graduates, just because if you don't know what you're getting into, it's a huge learning curve. And honestly, my 1L grades, they weren't bad, but they could have been a lot better. I really thrived in my 2L and 3L year, and that's just because I figured out the system. I figured out how it worked. And so I think especially first generation law students, they don't have that guidance. And so if you can seek it and figure it out a little bit better, you're just setting yourself up for future success.
Yeah. And let's get into the struggles. I mean, law school itself, of course, is its own struggle. What particular things that you are okay with sharing of struggles that you maybe faced? And it can be, as personal, or it can be maybe the studying itself, or work, or family life, or being a mom. Like, what did you find that was extra hard? So those people can also emotionally prepared for that, as well as try to adjust their life if this is the right time for them or not.
I think one thing, at least for me personally, is kind of leaving your ego out the door. A lot of law students are type A personalities that really just are used to succeeding academically. And there's a curve, right? And so you're constantly compared to everyone in your class. And I think if you can take that and kind of compartmentalize it a little bit, it will help you when you're getting your first grade and you're like, whoa, what? I got a 65 on an essay? Like, how is this possible? You know?
But 65 in a curve grade could be the top grade.
It
could
could
still be an A. It doesn't, those percentages can either be the worst feeling in the world or it can still be good. You just got to look at the grade and you just got to be better than the other person below you.
Exactly. And honestly, all you need to pass the bar is the average of a 65, right? On each essay, plus obviously the MBEs and whatnot. But I didn't know that was how it was graded. And so it was really like a shift where I had to be okay with not being perfect per se.
Yeah.
And once I was able to kind of get past that, I was then able to go a step deeper. And I still seeking mentorship from professors or just meeting with them to ask them questions, I think was really helpful. And can you remind me the question once again? I apologize for that.
The original question or the questions I've had inside the questions? Well, the struggles.
The struggles. Oh, yeah, the struggles. You know, I try not to think about those, but
we'll narrow it down. Like the struggle, we know that law school's hard. They're studying. You have to really put your nose in the books. You have to prepare. You're going to be called on. A lot of that. You're a mom. And you're a good mom. I know you are.
Thank you.
And you're a wife and you also work. So let's break it down as the mom. Where was the struggles as the mother first, and then we'll move from there.
That sounds great. So as a mom, like I kind of talked about it a little bit, the mom guilt. I want to be everything for my kids, and there are times I just couldn't. And I had to lean on my partner and had to just trust that he had it, and he did. And so, but being very intentional with the time you had with them. So, for instance, most of us nowadays are kind of locked to our phone or iPads, you know.
Devices.
Exactly. So really putting those down, being intentional with the time you had, scheduling those things out too, like different events with them. So that way you could be completely present and just making that time a little bit more special. I might have bought them one or too many toys in the mix too, you know. It was hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I think that was the hardest part about law school is just being away from them. But again, keeping that I'm doing it for them. I'm doing it to better their lives at the end of the day was my goal.
Yeah. And how does that differ in the overall family, like with your spouse and everything? How does...
Yeah, my poor husband. No, I'm just kidding. Law school comes with a lot of emotions. And so he was just ultimately the best support for me. He saw me at my highs with doing well, and he also saw when I didn't do so well and was frustrated. Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of stress, right? I was handling and juggling a lot of things. So he probably sometimes didn't get the best of me either. But he just gave me a lot of grace and kept cheering me on and letting me know I could do it. But I'm glad I'm done because I have been able to reconnect on a deeper level with him over the last few months. And it's just been a blessing not to be in law school anymore.
Yeah, I imagine not imagine because I also was married, but at least my husband has gone through law school. So like he already knew what he was getting into when I decided to go, how crazy my head was going to be during that time. But it's got to feel like a new marriage again, because that burden is gone, that stress is gone. And how about your work? How did you get through those struggles of having to do work and law school?
So thankfully, I had really understanding bosses. I feel like from day one, I was very honest with them too. So I let them know, hey, I wanted to do this. Are you okay with giving me some flexibility through it too? Because I think from day one, you have to have those conversations to also know what you're getting into and what you're going to be allowed to do. And really just keeping communication open with them. I mean, I think, like I said, they were just a great support. I got everything I needed to get done. If I needed flexibility, I just asked them for it. And for the most part, it wasn't a problem. But prioritizing, right? Like there are going to be things that need to be taken care of right away that can't wait. And so I would need to make sure I got that done before law school stuff. And that's just because I was committed to being a great employee and the law school was after the fact. So.
Yeah. And while you were doing all this, did you have any time where you're like, I can't do this anymore? Like, especially the 1L year is I find to actually kind of be the hardest, even though the last bit of it is like the final run. But the 1L year is where you're changing your mindset. Did you at any point where you're like, this, I don't know if I can do this? And when you did feel that, how did you get through it?
I feel like it was a every semester thing for Bet. I don't know. How I kind of attack everything in life. I take it one step at a time, knowing it's all gonna be okay at the end. And so it's just really persevering and just keep going. At the end of the day, it is what it is. I can't change certain things like grades. I could just change the next semester and how I approached it. And so I thankfully had great law school friends too, and one being you. So finding your group, and that can be hard because you're all competing against each other, and you want to find a group of friends that really supports you through the good and the bad and to help you, because no one's going to understand law school unless you've been through law school.
Yeah.
And so I can vent to my family, my other friends, but at the end of the day, they don't get it. And that's okay. It's really just an experience. Unless you've been through it, it's really hard to relate.
Yeah, I can understand that. I would say as your friend, and that we would have, it's good that we had the same subjects, but I actually didn't want to have classes with you or any of our close friends, because then now we're in competition with each other and want to be a cheerleader, but then hoping that we still do better than each other, or at least not get the bottom. So that does create some tension. But what is something particular for you that maybe you had to experience during your time in law school that maybe isn't like normal for everyone, but maybe just something that you particularly had to struggle with, or whether it be from your personal that affected your journey, or do you have something?
I unfortunately had a lot of family end up in the hospital multiple times through my law school experience. So I needed to tend to that. So it's just adding like that extra layer of stress. I ended up 2 weeks before finals in 2023 having to get my gallbladder removed. And so that was really difficult because in my head, I'm like, I need to study. I need to like really get ready for the finals. And so, no, those things were a challenge. But again, it's really just sticking to it, and you only can do what you can do, and you do the best you can do at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, I remember that, and I applaud you. And you were texting me from the hospital room like, I'm still going to be there for the exam. I'm like, what? I think it's okay if you see if you can get this one off. But you're very determined and very dedicated. So I am very proud of you for that. I mean, I never would want to go through it, that particular experience, but you did. I mean, after that, it probably felt like everything was a piece of cake.
Honestly, it did a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've made it through law school, you graduated, and then you went on to study for the bar. So how did that look? I know how it turns out, but how did that, studying for the bar is obviously a different beast than going to law school. So tell us more about that and your experience with that.
So because I worked full time, I knew I was going to need more time to study for the bar. So I actually studied starting the last week of December before July 2025. And so I started very slow. So because I had classes still, I needed to pace myself because I didn't want to get burnt out, even though I was already kind of burnt out at that point. So I started extra
burnt.
Yes. Like toast. But I basically 10 hours a week until I hit, I want to say April. And then I upped it to about 15 hours or so.
Okay.
And then come graduation, I went full all in and treated it like a job. So between bar prep and work, I easily 80 hours, sometimes more.
Yeah. And so you had work during the day and then you'd go straight into bar prep at night?
At night.
Did your days look like back-to-back 8 hours, or did you just like lump a big chunk on the weekend? What was your routine?
Yeah, so big chunks on the weekend, so 10 hours each day, Saturday and Sunday. And then I would spread out the other 20, 25 hours throughout the week at night. And so I wanted to be one and done.
Yeah.
Honestly, because I didn't want to do this to my kids for a second time. Yeah. And so I had an honest conversation with them too, because they're old enough to know what's going on. And then like I just explained like, hey, this is temporary. Mommy doesn't want to do this to you again. It still might happen, but the goal's not to. And so it's just kind of walking them through it, front loading them a little bit to what to expect. And so, and then obviously conversations with my husband. What does this look like for you? I'm really going to need you to step up, even though he was already stepping up, even just a little bit more through this phase so we can get through it.
Yeah, that's really good. And the bar itself, because it's a California bar and it is a 2-day, I think they're all 2-day exams now across the country, and they're hard. They are a very difficult exam, and California especially is a hard exam. How did those days look for you? Like, I know how it looks for a lot of us, that it's very nerve-wracking. How did it go for you?
Well,
Are you getting a little PTSD from
a little bit, a little bit. First day I went in, well, let's start with when I woke up. I woke up a good hour and a half before, made sure to get a good breakfast. I'm glad I did, because after about 30 minutes, I went to the hotel restaurant. Everybody else was there. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm glad I got here when I did. Had some coffee. I need coffee to survive. That's also how I survived law school. Coffee.
Yes, I know. And you've made us all coffee addicts now. So
could be worse.
It is a delicious habit.
So yeah, then it's going to sound silly, but I've been playing this like song over and over again throughout the week that just really inspired me. And so I played that a few times, and then I just went into prayer, prayed for a good 10 minutes. And I went into day one feeling good, feeling like, you know what, I did all I could possibly do at this point to be ready for the first day. And so we had our first essay, and it was a trust essay. And I was so excited because I had a great wills and trust teacher not too long ago. And so, or professor, I don't know why I said teacher, but essentially I nailed the first essay as I heard everyone else go, because no one was expecting a trust essay. And so I got through the first half feeling confident and went back into it. It's very draining, just from a brain standpoint and an emotional standpoint. So I made sure to have a good light lunch because I didn't want to have food coma, another caffeine beverage, and then finished the day. And I actually left day one thinking, you know what, there's a chance.
There's a chance.
There's a chance.
That's good.
You know?
Felt like it.
But writing is my strength, I think. And so I expected that from day one.
Yeah.
However, day two, multiple choice MBEs have always, unfortunately, been my weaker point. And so I went and had the first 100 questions, and I lost all confidence. I was like, I think I'm going to fail. And I texted a few people, and one being you, and you guys were just very encouraging. I took an ice cold shower, which was also a recommendation to do. And I just really grounded myself. And I think through this whole process, that's the moment I'm most proud about, because I don't think I've ever been as dysregulated in regards to an exam as I was then.
Yeah.
I felt a lot of pressure that probably didn't help the situation, but I went into it. I mean, the worst I could do is fail at this point, but I need to finish, because if I don't finish, it's going to be an automatic fail, right?
Yeah.
So I went in, finished it, left, like, this could go either way. I'm just glad it's done, but I don't want to talk to anyone about it.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, I will say talking to people kind of makes it worse, because you're like, oh, did I miss that? I didn't get that perspective. I didn't. And then you're in your head, and you're just, you don't need to be in your head. There's nothing you can do to change it. But I know that all of us were praying for you and very nervous for you, because it is a very nerve-wracking exam. Everything has come to that. I mean, you have your JD, but now you got to be licensed in the state of, in your state. So it is very nerve-wracking to do. What would you say you would change in your study process, and what would you maybe encourage others to try to do if they're coming up to the bar?
That's a great question. Know how you study and what works for you. There's no one size fits all. yes, a bar prep company is important, but at the end of the day, you know you best. And so I kind of wish I leaned into that a little bit more sooner. I did towards the end of my studying, and I just trusted the bar prep company way, which it's been tried and true. It's been
Yeah.
researched and whatnot. But I felt I was able to grasp more when I kind of built my own schedule with the bar prepping company, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yes, it does. Yeah. So what was something that surprised you in your bar prep and your bar and the bar exam itself, like that you really didn't anticipate, or that just kind of was like, because we can only plan for so much. Yes, we do the bar programs or we have our study things. What was something kind of like threw a little bit of a curveball in that process that maybe somebody else might need to consider? Is there anything particular?
Yeah, and it's not even going to be like the studying part. For me, it was the pressure of it all. I underestimated how that was going to make me feel.
Yeah.
I feel as it got closer to the exam, more and more weight was being put on my shoulders. And that's all on myself, right? I put that on myself, but everyone's trying to be supportive and encouraging. But all that did really was make me nervous to let them down.
Exactly.
And so I think if I were to do it all again, I wouldn't tell very many people that I was taking the bar. Just because that was unnecessary stress that could have been used differently. Like I could have used that energy more for studying or whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it only happens twice a year and then you wait months before you find out, which is another nerve wracking thing. So it's kind of hard to keep a secret. And then you need that time to say, hey, I'm going to be a little MIA for a while. I can't dedicate everything. So you did it a longer study thing. And some people, a lot of times people do it right after graduation and then they go into the 8 to 10 weeks. And I'm guessing that, especially because you have a family, that work studying longer was better for you. Is that if you had to do this again, would you prefer to go in the short, condense? I mean, obviously this is preference for anybody, or was the long run better for you? Or as far as you
I think the long run was better. I should clarify, I had 5 weeks of being off work.
Yeah.
So I was able to have that intense studying that was dedicated every day. And that was really helpful because I didn't have to compartmentalize as much. I was just able to focus. But realistically, I don't think I could have, even with the family, and if I wasn't working, I don't think I could have squeezed that all in 8 to 10 weeks. And that's just because realistically, it's a lot on anyone's plate. So you should plan accordingly based on what you have going on in your life.
Exactly. And so jump ahead. We know you passed.
Yes.
And I know it feels good, but just let me hear your words. How do you feel?
The biggest weight off my shoulder. I think the first emotion wasn't even joy. It was relief. Relief that I don't have to go tell everyone I failed. And relief I don't have to do this again for my kids.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always going to have a busy life. Let's just be honest. Part of being an attorney will come with the hours, but I will still have that dedicated time to them where I'm not doing too many things at one time.
Exactly. And so what's your next steps now that you're done with that?
It's a great question. So that was actually the golden question for, I feel like, months before I finally decided.
Yeah, which creates more pressure too.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do after this? Like, let me just get through this first.
Right. And I didn't want to look ahead to that extent yet, just because if I failed, I didn't want to feel it like, oh, now I can't get that, you know?
Like you have to put another dream on hold.
Exactly. So I took it one increment at a time, which is weird for me because I love plan. I love planning everything, but it was necessary. But what I am planning, I am going to continue working where I'm currently employed and then opening my own law practice. And so I really just want to help small businesses and nonprofits, especially with their employment side and making sure they're compliant, a lot of preventative stuff, because let's be real, attorney's fees are expensive and I want to be affordable for them because they need it too.
Exactly. That's a really good goal. That is really good. And what would you say to anybody, particularly people like yourself, whether they're a mother or working full time or, just they took a different direction and now they're at a point that this is something that they've been wanting to do, what would you tell them? What would you advise of how to get through it? Advice of whether or not they should take the leap? What would you say to them?
You need to have an honest conversation with yourself. You need to know it's going to be hard. And you really just have to have the resilience and the persistence, because if you have those two things, take the jump, take the leap. Things are going to happen. I'm living proof of that, but you can still make it through, but again, it's getting back up when you're down, or if a child's sick, figuring it out anyway. Like, you just have to want it. And if you want it bad enough, you can do whatever. And honestly, like, it's worth it all at the end. It doesn't maybe feel like that all the time, but at the end of the day, I am going to better their life.
True. And is there anything else you'd like to add, or that you maybe some point that we missed or we didn't talk about? Anything else?
I just get a mentor if you're a first generation law student. That's one thing I wish I had that I didn't. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to jump into something that maybe you don't know if you can do or not, But again, have that mindset of, I'm going to do it, and we're going to figure it out along the way.
And for a mentor, are you talking about before they've applied at law school and they're going to take the leap? Or are you talking about, obviously having one in law school, but there's somebody that they should be talking to beforehand?
If you can get someone beforehand, because again, I had no idea the challenge law school would be. And I think if I was better prepared, I would have done even better.
Yeah. That makes sense. Okay, well, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming and sharing your experience with us, and for everybody to get to know you a little better. And we'll be probably checking in with you down the road to see how your law firm is going and how your practice is going, and if anything changed from that. And so thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Beyond the Casebooks podcast. If you enjoyed today's discussion, be sure to follow us on Instagram at The Online Law Coach for updates and behind-the-scenes content. You can also watch full episodes and more on our YouTube channel, The Online Law Coach. Don't forget to subscribe to Beyond the Casebooks podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts to stay up to date on new episodes. We'd love for you to leave a review and share your thoughts. It helps us reach more listeners just like you. Until next time, keep redefining the road to law school.